Joining me now in the studio is Nona Peltier for our business update. Okay, Nona, let's start with this immigration issue, because small businesses and other industries are kind of calling on the Minister of Immigration to make a decision about all of these people who have temporary work visas that are about to expire. So what is at the core of this issue?
Yeah, so prior to the lockdown, there were a lot of visas that would have expired while the Department of Immigration was really not working and was unable to process those, and it would be unfair. So there was a lot of visas that expired between April 2nd and that will have expired by July 9th. That's later this week. So what the minister did was say, okay, we're going to extend the deadline for the expiring of all these visas to September 25th. And since then has said nothing about what happens on September 26th. In the meantime, the people with these visas that have expired have been applying for jobs and or to renew their visa. But the problem is Immigration New Zealand is not renewing any of those visas or issuing any new ones unless the employer can prove that the job that the applicant is applying for cannot be filled by a New Zealand citizen or a permanent resident. And when you look at the unemployment situation, we were at just over 4% prior to the lockdown. We're now looking at about 7.3% for this quarter ended just in June and peaking around 9%. So a completely different labor market. So it's really difficult for employers to prove that there's no New Zealander or permanent resident available to do a job. And that means that the people in those jobs are going to have to leave the country if they can't find other work or something else to do here to earn an income. And that's all going to happen at the end of September. So mid-May, the Minister of Immigration decided that he needed some kind of special power to deal with this really big problem. And so under urgency, passed some legislation that gave him this power. This was on May 15th. And nothing has happened since then. No decision has been made. Businesses, organizations representing people in this position, you name it, everyone's been trying to knock on the door and say, come on, what's going to happen? And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because from July 9th, every visa that expires after that, it's gone, it's expired. And it's the same story for them. And then there's another group of people who are on these 36-month visas. They're all going to expire at the end of August, and they're supposed to leave the country then.
So it's a domino effect, and regardless of people's views on whether they should stay or go, they may actually have real difficulties getting out of the country, even if they want to go.
And what about, for example, there's a lot of, for example, the 36-month visa allows, the idea of it was that you'd have these low-wage people leave the country after 3 years, and then a new batch would come in. But there was nobody coming. So these people, if they leave the country, the employers who've been employing these people have no one to turn to. And yes, of course, some New Zealand citizens and permanent residents can fill some of these jobs, but not thousands of them. We're talking about 200,000 jobs that have to be varied over the next short while. And that's of a workforce estimated to be 350,000 over the lockdown. Now, some people may have left since then, but these are temporary workers. These are people, some of them have been here for years. Many of them would have been just waiting for their permanent residency. They've lost their jobs. It's a big, big issue, and some decisions need to be made as soon as possible.
And the interesting thing about that, the expiration date just brings us to a week after the election. So if there's no news before that, it's likely to get lost in the spaghetti that is the election period.
It's going to be, and I tell you, for the people involved, it's extremely stressful. We're talking about, for example, the hospitality industry is a big employer of temporary workers. And if you think this was the last sector to emerge from the lockdown, they're just finding their feet. To replace some of these more skilled workers is costing, $8,000 plus to replace a skilled worker in that sector, or really any sector.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about Metlifecare again, because didn't we talk about this before? Wasn't there a takeover offer and then there wasn't?
We just keep talking about it. but eventually things will sort themselves out. We always say
So what's
that.
happened?
Okay, so the bidder for the Metlifecare withdrew the offer because they thought that because of the lockdown, Metlifecare, in case people don't know, is a retirement village operator. They thought that their profits and financial position had been significantly, materially affected by the lockdown, and said, hey, we don't want to buy it at, I guess, $7 a share, something like that. That's what they were offering. But it's $1.5 billion. Metlifecare said, no, you can't withdraw. We're going to take you to court. And these guys came back yesterday, late last night, and said, okay, I'll tell you what, we'll offer you $6 a share. So now Metlifecare is going, oh, okay, $6, not so bad, not what we had before, but hey, okay. So that's looking positive, but there's a few hooks, and one of them is that the bidder, which is Asia Pacific Village Group, they want Metlifecare to back away from the litigation threat. But Metlifecare is saying, wait a minute, we're not going to back away from anything until we know we have a deal. So there's still a lot of water to run under that bridge.
Okay. Shall we quickly do the market?
Why not? And so the NZX Top 50 Index, it rose 0.8% today. That's a 98-point gain to 11,656, levels we haven't seen since February. And the New Zealand dollar is up slightly, 65.5 US cents, and otherwise steady against the Australian at 94.1 and 52.4 British pounds.
52.4. Wow. Thanks, Nona. Nona Peltier with our business news there.